Hi guys, my name is Luba. Thank you for joining us tonight. I hope the information you will hear will be new and useful for you. So while others are joining, let's talk a bit about our company, about Intellia's interesting projects, international clients, global representation, 8 development centers, and more than 300 open vacancies. That's what Intellias is about. We create unique software solutions for more than 2 billion people with the help of 3,000 experienced developers on a board. And no matter how fast we grow, we always adhere to people-first approach. So I invite you to check our website with the vacancies, and who knows, maybe career match will happen. Now, just a couple of technical issues. If you have any questions, you can write them in the chat, and our speaker will answer them during the Q&A session. And also, we'll be so grateful for your feedback. You can actually write about the other events or webinars you would like us to handle. I will type the link to the form in the chat, and whenever you have time, please go ahead. Well, that's it on my side. So I would like to introduce our speaker, Volodymyr Довганюк, Director and Head of Business Analysis at Intellias. Volodymyr, glad to see you here, and the stage is yours.
Hello, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful day and going to have a good weekend. Let me share my presentation and let's switch to the topic. Okay, so give me just a second. Just run it. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about not so modern technologies, not so something that is going to happen in future, but we are going to have a look how the projects were happening in the past. And are there any lessons? Are there any interesting insights that we can get from there? As Mola mentioned, my name is Volodymyr Довганюk, and I'm running business analysis expertise in Intellias on the position head of business analysis, head of business analysis, and except running a lot of interesting stuff on my job, I also love traveling. I love history, and before war, before pandemic, I used to travel a lot. I used to try to visit interesting places on the planet. Today, we're trying to talk a little bit about one of the museums, one of the histories that happened almost 400 years ago, but still has great impact on what we are doing today. And I believe we can recognize some parts of this story in your projects or on the projects you heard about, but you wouldn't like to mention. First of all, let's try to start with the pretty logical question, I believe, often asked, often answered: what is success of the project, of the product? And probably there is no just one single answer to this question. Depending on the methodology, depending on the position you play, depending on the state of the product in development, product development life cycle, you will have different answers. Yeah, starting from the revenue streams, ending to customer satisfaction, starting from the classical project management triangle, scope, budget, timeline, ending again, satisfaction, ending the performance matrices on productions, how good we are, how many transactions per second we are going to run, and all this stuff. And I believe that different specialities, different directions might measure it in a little bit different scale, and that's fine. However, there is even more tricky question here, which is, what is the failure? Yeah, how we define the fail of the project, how we define the fail of the product. And usually that's something creepy. That's something that start building, probably built, but that never been used or crashed on their first day. If you recap the first days of aviations, I believe that something around failure, it might be that you built a plane and it just crashed during first flight. However, maybe at this time it wasn't such a big failure. Let's try to look a little bit in the history. Let's try to recap the history of failure of building a warship in Sweden in almost 400 years ago. So let's try to imagine what's going on in the Europe theater, in Sweden this time. Sweden is pretty huge, powerful countries. Their dynasty is running for war actions on the Europe, in today's Germany, in today's Poland, a little bit later on in today's Ukraine. However, they are a country that has a long seaside, so they are Navy country, they are building ships, and they start building a ship called Vasa as the name of their king and their dynasty at this time in 1625, and during some circumstances it turned into the flagman of their navy. It got launched in 2 years. It was inspected personally by a king in almost a year, and after final preparation, it goes to the water, and it starts making its first and unfortunately last journey. So you can see something like a map. In general, it managed to pass only a little bit more than 1 kilometer, and then based on the wind and based on the salute that they made from one of their boats, it goes under the water. And for sure, that's the crap. For sure, that's something we can say failure, because a lot of funds, a lot of efforts were invested in it, and everything goes below the water. Together with the ship, significant amount of the crew of their families are also went under the water, and has pretty dramatical circumstances, conclusions for that. However, let's try to dive deeper. Like, it's just a story. Yeah, it's just a case, how we can define failure, how we can measure failure, but how did we get to the state? What had happened before that? And probably one of the most interesting questions, we are all, I believe, in tech, majority of us are in software development, product engineering. We're still talking about the ship, maybe not ancient ships, but definitely not modern ones, trying to align about the software, about nowadays. Because I believe there are a lot of lessons, there are a lot of takeaways that we can benefit, that we can get from this story. Let's try to get through the history of building, of creation of the ship, try to understand the main pitfalls, try to understand the main key decisions, I would say, that turns into this catastrophe, and how we are doing the same small steps leading to small catastrophes, hopefully, nowadays. So first of all, let's try to have a look into what was the context, yeah, how it's going, how it was going that time. So Sweden decided to build a few ships. Yeah, not so long, not so huge, just around 110 feet each. A group a little smaller, a group a little longer, but still small one. Unfortunately, Denmark, which is their enemy, their competitors, start to build a separate type of ships, more modern, with more advanced technology. It's right now it's 2 decks. You can fire your guns not from 1 deck, but from 2 floors. And Sweden for sure wouldn't like to lose this competition, so they said, "Okay, we are going to do the same." However, there was a problem. No one built these ships in Sweden before that, but they said, "Okay, not a problem. Our competitors did it. We also can do it." And based on this, the size of the ship increased just maybe 25 feet from the number perspective, but from the construction and the technologies of that time, it's significant. It's significantly changed the balance of the construction and the efforts of the construction. And it wasn't just built from the scratch in this way, but it was just extended. I would call it artificially extended, while it was already in process. However, if we try to make some abstraction from the shipbuilding, and if we try to have a look into how we usually or often build software nowadays, we all start from something small, tiny, shiny. It's like super polished MVP, small product that just should fit into the box, into the room where it should have, yeah? But at some point, we understand that, okay, there are similar or not so similar products that do something like we or we can extend into this area and we start adding this feature, and this try changing our smart product, sometimes in the monster from the technology part, monster from the functional part. I will show you in a moment a picture that I like the most. However, it's something like illustrate this example the best way. At the same time, we even do not understand why we are adding this feature. We are just adding because we know that this is our competitor, or this is someone we would like to be like them, and they do this stuff, so we should do the same. Without understanding the market, without understanding the economy, without understanding how we are going to build this. At this point, our ecosystem started growing so fast that we are not able to manage it. We start introducing new positions, we start introducing new tasks, and make it complex. In addition, I didn't put it straightly in this slide. However, remember, sometimes we are using the technology that is just fancy, that is just modern. We follow the trends of fashion, or maybe pressure from the management or from the customer side, and we use everything based on this technology that is on hype. Not because we love it, not because it's something that should be used here, but we just following the trends. Yeah, everyone use, let's say, blockchain at some point, and we are trying to add blockchain to every industry, to every product. Somewhere it fits super well, somewhere it's just redundant, just buzzword, because you can get funding for it for startups, for products, or because that's a fancy buzzword that is in place. Why talking about the product that starts from something simple and grows into something super complex? I have best example. This is this type of Swiss knife, and that's not a Photoshop. That's a real device. You can find it in the shop. It costs, I believe, let me calculate, maybe $200 or $300 around it. But it's not just a Swiss knife. You can see here a lot of tools, a lot of devices. Each of them are useful. Each of them are really great, but trying to get them everything in one place, it's a little bit redundant. That's not something I used to take in my pocket, or I even wish to take in my pocket in future. Let's try to move next. So we talked a little bit about adding feature because we would like to follow the competitor. But what about features we are adding to impress our management? Yeah, let's see how it was in Sweden in 17th century. And at this point, they realized that they are not building just a ship. They're building state-of-the-art modern technology that will allow them to overcome everyone in the sea. And so they understand that this is actually a flagman, something that we are proud of, something that we would like to emphasize, something that we named as Vasa, the name of our royal dynasty. So we need to decorate it, because that's not so good if you have the flagman named by your king and not decorated without all this enhancement. This story with decoration brings extra weight, extra extensions, and a little bit missed the center of masses and all additional items around the ship. That's a story from the past. But just recap how often you are adding some features or some extra items because your top management just want it. I believe everyone has this scene in their portfolio. I definitely do. And I know that sometimes it's difficult to say no, because usually it's build budget dilemma. Like if we build this, we have probably more chances to secure our budgets for next periods. If you say no, that's probably, oh, you are not listening to the top, so maybe we should rearrange it. But just try to at least understand the impact of such changes, and try to evaluate how this minor or not so minor features overload the product. Yeah, we try to introduce the new user journeys, new scenarios, and but at the same time paying for it, not only with time spent directly for this feature, but the time, costs, efforts, moral, if you wish, spent for the usability, for architecture design, for maintaining this in production, and trying to still hoping get it into something concise, simple, and MVP-like product. Yeah. When we are talking about the decorations that exact the photos, to some extent for constructions, but photos of the decorations that were put on this ship. And as you can see, they look really great. They look amazing. They look state of the art, and you would like to touch them. But are they really required? Yeah. Is it something that changed the balance of the battlefield in the sea? Probably no. But as we can see, it definitely something that can bring difficulties in running the solution or running the warship. Let's try to move forward, and that's bring us to something more related to classical business analysis or project management, if you wish. That's how we operate with the requirement, how we operate with our vision, how we spread our knowledge across the team or across the company. And we try to look back at the shipbuilding activities. After a few years of building, because of time pressure, because of rush, there was not found any documentation about how the design of the ship was done. Yeah, they just started building and eventually adding extra pieces to this, eventually changing design, expanding it, and making it bigger because we can. Yeah, the knowledge about how to get it done was mainly transferred verbally from the master of the deck to his assistant. And in a while, we will see why it was additional problems. So because when the master died, it was literally no person who knows the concept from the beginning. Everyone was either in their silos or didn't know the information about design architecture of the ship at all. And again, the last year, this is rush. We need to release this product in time because this is King's flagman. So we are going to involve more people, and there were around 400 people working in 5 teams, 5 squads. But again, when you're bringing more people, when you're bringing more teams, usually what we sacrifice in this time, this is communication. The communication between those teams were poorly. Making good decisions or even brilliant decisions in one area brings us the cost problems in another. Yeah, making it bigger, make it more stable. Make it higher, definitely make it less stable. Does it make sense for today? Yeah. Does it reflect the problems that we face as of today in software engineering, product engineering? Yes, it does. How often we see that there is just a limited knowledge of people who knows how the product works or how it should work according to the initial intent. The knowledge holders sometimes are hidden, sometimes are masked. Sometimes we see the problem that there are several teams, but their synchronization is poorly established. Yeah, there are a lot of frameworks on how to orchestrate, how to run a lot of agile teams in parallel. However, the reason they align, they rise is because it's difficult and it's still a problem to synchronize this team, to establish communication between those teams. And even having this programs and frameworks in place, it's still challenging. There are companies, there are products that manage to do these critical steps. At the same time, there are products that didn't or still on their journey. Knowledge transfers, that's probably one of biggest pain in some cases. Depending on the company culture, depending on the product culture, it might be super different, but there are still a lot of items when the knowledge transferring for some areas are done more as a matter of incident than as planned manageable activities. And this story about bus factor, that having just one person who knows all information, who owns all architecture, all decisions, it's usually not so good, because in case of incidents or bus incidents, you lose almost all your knowledge, and it will be time consuming to pick it up and run forward. Pretty similar if we try to move to such deeper details. There is a testing issues, so how often, we all know that quality is important. We have the quality engineers, we involve developers in responsibility for quality from different perspectives. We run different types of automated tests or unit tests, combinations, integration tests. We try to make involve development guys in cross testing. However, that's not only about running the testing. That's also about evaluating the results of the test. We saw the results of Vasa trip a few minutes ago, but there's a logical questions. Had they tested their ship before? Yes, they did. They ran a few tests. They actually put the 30 men on the deck, asked them to run from one side to another. They managed to do it for 3 times, and after that, the amplitude of the ship becomes so huge that they decided to stop, not to crack it on the shipyard immediately, because it looks like not stable. However, what they did with this solution, did they try to improve it? Did they try to maybe make non-go decision for the ship in general, or for the release date at least? In fact, no. In fact, they were not able to make this decision. The king responsible and pushing for getting ship done was in Poland for next series of battles, and they just make a quiet agreement to move according to the plan, to move forward, and didn't any action at the time. Does it happens today? Yeah, we described that there are a lot of activities around quality, and there are different approach to quality. It looks like we even know how to live with quality, but still there are some cases when we try to adjust our approach for quality, measuring quality, for running tests, just to get to the point when we can pass those tests. I believe we remember the pretty interesting case in automotive in Germany, I believe 3 or 4 years, but that's also something about how we tweak around quality. There are some cases when we understand that results are even not so good, but they are terrible, and the product shouldn't go out of our room, but we still ignore this result, we still release these results because of response to market, because of pressure, because of hope that, okay, we will release it and then we'll try to fix it. And it does not matter that we should try to make everything ideal. We'll never be able to make it, but we at least should understand what is our go, no-go getaway, what is our quality getaway to get things, to release things to the people, to release things to the users, to avoid such painful fails. And that's also one more thing, that usually sometimes we are too optimistic, and we very often underestimate the impact of the production fails. And this impact is not only the cost, this impact isn't only the time spent for it, but that's always the reputation, that's always market share, that's always your relations with the end users and customers, which for sure will be reduced after such significant, painful issues like we talked about. Yeah, when we talk about the testing procedure, it mainly looks like the following. So we have a ship, and after moving back and forth, it starts moving, it starts getting more water through the this openings areas for cans, and it becomes less and less stable with such of each iteration. However, there is one more interesting thing in this story that I would like to mention, that I would like to emphasize, because all the story is about the fail. All the story is about how we make the warship, how we make the flagman send. Yeah. We spent a lot of resources, we spent a lot of reputations. By the way, according to official history, there was some punishment for the guys who built the ship, but there was no death penalties or something like super straight that was in practice at that period. So, okay, it was common responsibility, it was collective responsibility, and it was accepted by everyone involved, including the king. Then, okay, we didn't manage to do it, and maybe we should try to build our fleet in a little bit different way, or try to concentrate not on the fleet itself, but maybe on the other aspects that we have, that might have. However, there is a question: can the story have a positive ending? Yeah, we talk about mistakes, we talk about the key pitfalls, we talk about how it affects our today's life, but is there any positive solution? Is there any positive outcome of the story? And in fact, it is. For those of you who are in Sweden or in Stockholm, or for those of you who were there or planning to be there, there is a museum, Vasa warship. It looks like on this picture, there is a huge building and the ship is inside. And the story behind the museum is the following. If you recap this one of the first images that I shown, the Vasa go the bottom almost in the Stockholm area, so more or less they understand where it can be found. Even in that century, they managed to dive. Okay, let's bring additional level of innovations that were done a little bit better than the ship itself, and they managed to take some cannons, some items, costly items from the ship, and try to reuse them on other ships or in other industries for the other items. But in 1961, they managed to get the ship to recover it. And after, I believe, 20 years of recovery, investigations and researches around it, they managed to open the Vasa Museum. It was opened in 1990, if I'm mistaken, and if Wikipedia isn't lying to me. It's almost in the center of Stockholm. It's still running, and even taking into account that a lot of museums in Stockholm are free to entry. This is not one of them. Even this one museum is the most visited, the most popular, and most, I would say, loved for some categories of Sweden and of the tourists around the world. So even having this story concentrated on how you shouldn't do, how you shouldn't run your projects, your products, how you shouldn't communicate, how you shouldn't track your requirement, or how you shouldn't make the decision to run your product, still, even after having a fail, you might get the interesting insight, the interesting results, and try to turn your fail into the victory. So I'm going to provide here any silver bullets or any 100% proven decisions to follow to keep on track. I would just try to emphasize a few thoughts, a few challenges, a few outcomes, if you wish, that comes from the story that can be beneficial in our everyday's life or our current operations, maybe even outside the engineering, maybe even outside the project engineering. So this is, first of all, this is about question how you should find your way to address the boss wishes dilemma. Yeah. In every setup, in every company, you will most likely you will have the cases when the boss comes, investor comes, sponsor comes, and asks to add something special. And there is probably up to you, regardless what position or what roles you play in the project, try to understand how you are going to address it. Are you going to accept everything? Most likely the result will be pretty similar as we saw on the previous slide. Are you going to deny everything? Probably not also an option, because this should be explained somehow, and you can't just say no to everything. Will you find your way how to prioritize these changes, how to address them, how to demonstrate your leadership that, okay, we can do it, but it will cost us something, and this is really not a good idea. Probably the most tricky item in this is when the boss who is generating wishes, who is generating features is you. That's probably the worst case, and the only thing I can advise you in this case, just try to understand that you are in the role of this bad boss, and try to stop being it. Yeah. Another one, this is about conscious decision. Yeah. We used business analysis in software engineering. We used the term impact analysis. Each decision, each change you are going to take will have some impact on other items. The items that will arise in future, or even the items that are already built. This is pretty common practice from change management in business analysis. This is pretty common practice in project management. But each time you have new requests on the table, you should try to address how it will change the general landscape. What will be its effect on the timeline, its effect on the budget, its effect on the quality attributes. Maybe it will bring us some new capabilities, which is great, but maybe it will also bring us some additional risks, or it's not a risk, it's already known issues or costs, which is definitely not so great. What are my trade-offs? Am I doing these trade-offs consciously? And I am accepting this level of risk, trying to mitigate it, trying to make some backups plans, or I'm just tossing a coin, or even not a coin, or saying yes to everything. That's probably the most critical part I would like to emphasize. It does not hurt so much when you accept everything, but it's definitely hurts when you do it unconsciously, when you do not understand the outcomes that will follow it. Technical debt. Yeah, trying to build something and trying to address, okay, we will do it later on. We'll get into the water, and then we'll try to think how we're going to fix the stability. It's something that we can call tech debt. Technical debt, it's usually, I wouldn't limit the scope technical debt only to the technology we are using, only to the approach or dependencies that we are using our code base, but that's also something that we knew that we add this feature for ourselves, for our users. It's not super convenient way of doing them, but okay, we'll do it later. That's our kind of technical kind of debt, product debt, user experience debt, other types or subtypes, if you wish, but it will definitely hurt us at the moment. We should understand this level, we should address this level, and in ideal condition, we should try to have the amount of debt with which we are living, and trying to address any extras to this amount. Otherwise, it will hit us sooner or later, but it will. And according to the Murphy's laws, it will hit us at the moment when we definitely wanted to have it the least. Knowledge sharing. Yeah, this is probably the best idea. Try to involve all your comrades, all your team members into the guys who know this knowledge. I know this is especially tricky and especially challenging in the COVID times, because in the office times, it was easy. You go to the coffee, you grab some cup, you start talking, and you know not only the data about the movies, but also some context about the job. You get the knowledge about it. But as I mentioned below, the agile doesn't mean chaos. try to organize these knowledge sessions, try to run some experiments, try to convert the guys with whom you are working on the products into the users of these products. I know this is pretty simple sentence, but at some points it's really difficult to do it because we create different products. Some of them are for end users like we sometimes need some special occupation, some special cases when we can use it properly. But still try to share this knowledge, try to run some communities. Do not build the silos when there is the knowledge holders and there is a bunch of executors who are doing what they say. Try to mix them, try to run common sessions, try to run common engagements, and try to spread this information across. Try also to track the documentation with your successors. And here, talking about documentation, we usually talk about, tons of papers put somewhere. In old days, it was shelves where we have printed manuals. Nowadays, on the documentation, we need tons of Confluence pages that are stored on our usually web storages. I like Confluence, but please remember that there are also other ways of putting the knowledge and documentations. Yeah, we can run videos, we can run some pictures and diagrams. We can try to invent new methods. One of my friends tried to run some, comics or cartoons based on functionality we are going to develop just to increase the interaction, increase the level of engagement of people who are going to read this documentation. Doesn't mean there should be still tons of this documentation. It should be, this magical just enough amount, but you can't live just in information vacuum without putting it together. At some point, even you, who I believe has a great knowledge about what you are doing, might benefit with the documents that you created before. Quality factors, try to understand what is going on Go decisions. I know that there is always push away. I know that we would like to put it somewhere on some usually product or pre-product environment and understand that's all. But still, if you're running tests, if you're having some procedures, try to understand what are the cases when you're not ready to show it. You're not ready, not because the coding is not complete, but because there are a set of factors that it's better to keep in the table. Extra checks, fixing the key issues that were, definitely don't go. And for example, in this case is try to imagine video games or even some phone models that were released before getting the necessary items completed. Yeah, you have a phone, but at some points it does not send SMS or doesn't have right now, I don't know, camera or 4G LTE connection. Will it be adopted by the market? Probably no. Probably it's easier to, unless you are targeting some specific groups, probably it's better to wait some time before going into release. And the last but not least, this is about turning your fails into victories. And I know that this is definitely the case where I'd like to put the victories from the grand capital, because that's something you should get proud of. I saw the question from the chat, like to provide some examples of turning fails into victories. It's tricky. It's usually tricky. Yeah, we saw the history of Vasa. Yeah, trying to convert the 400s, or at this point almost 3 centuries old catastrophe into victory, into some useful product. But it's not so easy and so obvious every time. We can try to find the similar examples, let's say in some city environments. I know that, let's say in Budapest, there is an area that was significantly destroyed during World War II, but right now, instead of rebuilding it, it's used as an area for parties, for taking some drinks and a lot of bars and engagement there, and it will bring some atmosphere. Is it definitely victory? To some extent, yes. We can try to leverage our fails into our experience. Yeah. If we know that this is one more way how it's going to work, that's additional point how not to do it, how not to approach it. Talking about converting fails into victories, I would recap Thomas Edison experience. There were a lot of items that looks like a mistake. I believe even the lamps was one of the experiments that doesn't go in the predefined areas, but it goes into something that we are using right now. I don't remember the right word even in Ukrainian, but you probably all remember the material from which the stocks are done. Yeah, women stocks, and that's something that was done by mistake. It wasn't intended to do this way. However, the mix of chemical materials in the bottle or in the glass bring us to something that was really used in the women's stock. After that, it was used even in the military industry and still used right now. Okay, I remind the word in Russian, but not in English and Ukraine. And if you want penicillin itself, that's something that was invented, maybe not as a fail, but just as a mistake. Yeah, just not cleaning the cups after getting tea or getting previous experiments in it, and this brings us to new findings, to new areas, and to new knowledge that we have. Let me check any other questions or comments that you have here. Would you recommend any other sources to learn about this topic? Not necessarily history background. Let's say you go to books. Actually, if you are, depending what do you mean on topic, because if you are taking about the Vasa and this history, there are several sources that I would recommend. First of all, if or when you have a possibility, I would definitely recommend to visit the ship. I definitely like the approach how Sweden build their museums. Vasa is a great example. Even they have some limitation because this is old wood that needs a certain temperature to other conditions, but still it's super interactive, super interesting. If you try to Google the similar naming, you will find a few white papers regarding how to translate the Vasa items into the software development. And they are probably more deep at some extent. At some extent, they might be even too wide, concentrating on the engineering practices and engineering approach. Which is, I don't remember the names and links right now, but from what I remember, IEEE organization institution is one of the publisher of such white papers, and this is a really good example about it. According to general engineering practices and general items of how bad things at some points try to convert in good ones. I'm not sure there is a single source about it, but I believe there are a lot of, I would call it educational, informational videos on YouTube trying to concentrate of some inventions done by mistake, or even some products that get converted into great value and great items for society in general and for humanity in general. I will take a breath right now. Guys, if there are any questions or comments, you are super welcome to post them. And I will ask Lydia to share them with me in the chat.
Yes, I just sent you one more.
What methodologies used are the best for such factors you mentioned? Oh, methodologies used. That's a great question. There are different methodologies in play. There are different methodologies that say that our methodology will be the best. what I would say, so I'm pretty conservative at some approaches, so I will try to split the methodologies based on the problem we have. So first of all, if we're talking about the way how the requirements come, the ways how the wishes come, and the decisions what we are doing with it, I will be pretty conservative in it. I will try to stick to the recommendations of business analysis body of knowledge and project management body of knowledge. In particular, into several cases that we have here, there, understanding the need, understanding how those wishes converts or relates to these needs, how they are helping us to solve this problem, if they are helping us this problem, and understanding how we are making the decision. Yeah, who is appropriate person to make the decisions, what preparation, homework we should do before taking this decision, and how we're going to run the impact analysis, not only from the project management angle, but also from the effect on other features, on other functionality. That's something about how guidance or governance of this approach. If we are talking about questions of communication between teams, I would say this usually depends on team size. If we are talking about significant amount of engineers working on one initiatives, significant, I mean 60 plus, I like, this is my personal wish, I like safe approach, scaled agile framework. Why? Because it's probably well structured, well documented, and pretty self-described. For huge organization, for enterprises, it suits well. For more agile, more fast-running, more product-oriented organizations, I would recommend something, less complex, starting from Scrum of Scrums, just trying to enable communications to any items you wish. And one more item that definitely need to be mentioned here, the approach that was built here, this is actually a big bang, if you will. Yeah, so we are building everything from scratch, and after that we are trying to understand, will it work or not? I'm definitely a fan of small steps, small iteration, try to run proof of concepts, try to validate the technology, try to validate the approach we're going to propose before, on the early stages, before making it super complex, high blown, and putting all stakes on it. So if we are facing new technology, let's try to do it on some maybe technical POC, maybe just small, tiny piece of our product to understand, does it work for us? Does it suit for us? Maybe we discover some constraints of it that is critical for us. Maybe no. Maybe vice versa. Maybe we understand additional capabilities that it can bring for us. But again, it depends. Trying this, small steps and early iterations, that's probably the best item that we've invented. It's sometimes very difficult to implement. That doesn't work in all areas, but I believe that definitely not the ideal way, but the way that tries to avoid at least majority of these items. And unfortunately, I'm sure you won't be able to avoid 100% of mistakes on any project. Really personally take the challenge to lead such a big ship? Good question. Why not? Look, it depends usually on personality, but there are two type of guys. Some ones who are trying to find the challenge and try to jump on it, and someone who probably will try to do proven methodologies or proven, safety areas. Both approaches are okay, are fine. I would say even more. Sometimes the same people try to be on both stages depending on their time, on their period of life, or any circumstances they. But I believe that such big challenges, such big tasks that have unclear solution, is something that is bringing your personal development, is something that motivates the development of your company, of your team, in general society as it. You can't be sea wolf in your comfortable harbor. And probably that's something that is the best suitable for this case. At some point, you need to take this challenge. Maybe you need to approach it in a different way. You definitely need to find the right team to get it done, because usually teams are doing success, not just one person. But why not? This is challenging, this is important, this is probably something you will be proud of if you manage to do it. If no, but that's part of the game of life we are taking. Process is more important than the team. This is a good question. Yeah, again, I wouldn't say that I'm a fan of agile statement, people over process. It depends. But just my feeling, my experience, you run the project, you run your job with the team. It should be the team that you want to see every morning on stand-ups. There should be the team that you are comfortable to face with critical situation. That should be the team that you can communicate and you have, the same feeling, the same sense of urgency, the same understanding of common things. The team for which you can say common sense, and common sense in some situations mean the same outcome. Because I believe if we get every one of you in this room, we'll get some play situation and try to get the common sense of it. Based on our experience, based on our culture, based on our personality, we'll get totally different common senses outcomes here, even on pretty simple question. I like processes. I believe that processes is something that streamlines us, something that allow us to find the way and scale the outcome, yeah, especially on long run, or especially on the cases that are rapidly continuously copied. But again, you need the people, you need the team who is able to set up this process, the people who are able to control this process, and the people who are able to run this process. Unfortunately, when we are talking about software engineering, the process you are trying to build, it will be always tailored to the team you have. We remember Ford, we remember Taylor a few years, almost a century ago, when they tried to build the process, regardless the people who are trying to sample the car. And maybe at that time it was okay because the operations was more important than people. So you take the other people, you run pretty short training, and he's ready. And if we are talking about Ford, they have pretty well-paid jobs, so no problem with getting new guy into this conveyor. When we are talking about software, again, what type of project it is? You want to have smart people. You want to have people that are not so ordinary as others, because if all of they are ordinary, most likely you'll try to automate the job instead of hiring someone else. And if you're having your teammates not as a group of collective individuals, but just as a setup of individuals, you will try to tailor the process, you will try to tailor the approach to it. I don't like this, that we are going definitely with people without paying no attention to process, because we are super brilliant, as well as trying to build the process without taking into account the people who are going to do it, from cultural reason, from personality reason, from their experience reason, that won't work. So it should be some intersections and some steps in front. As for people, our process should ever exist. Is there any reason why you should be choosing between in first place? You don't look. I believe that if you should decide people or processes, it's already a situation, maybe not lost situation, but clear to lost situation. I believe that people, and me personally, as well as believe you, should be oriented on results. So if you should find the best way, taking into account the people you have, taking into account the processes you have or you can build, taking into account the resources, time constraints you have to get the best suitable the best possible result to achieve your goals. Decision between people and processes, most likely it comes from the time when we have too bureaucratic environment, or at some points maybe we still have too bureaucratic environment, and we need to emphasize that process is good, but you need to hear something else. It's welcome. Is there actually a conflict there, given both are prepared in adequate manner? It shouldn't be. Actually, that's the point, it shouldn't be. If you are aligned, if you have shared vision, you might have different approaches, different thoughts, but based, I believe that on shared vision, accepted vision, shouldn't be such a dilemma. We try to build the processes based on multicultural team in multicultural from ethnicity perspective, nationality perspective, from company perspective, and from the experience perspective, and trying to having this goal inside shared vision upfront the other things, operational things. We built it successfully. Then we try to run another experiment. We try to replace one team by another, trying to limit and reduce the nationality variety. And again, we replace the team, we replace the people, but we did not share the vision. And in this case, it wasn't so smooth. So again, I believe it shouldn't be. You shouldn't tick the box like, is it people or is it process? Is it the goal you're going to achieve? I'm actually excited that we have a lot of questions, and actually excited the variety of the questions we have. I believe that's a good point. I see Mela is turning on, and we are almost out of time.
Thank you so much for a great presentation. Like, it was so deep. And yeah, actually, we have one more question. Let me just share it with you. And if you have some others, guys, you can still send it in the chat, and our speaker will go ahead.
Could a matrix or vector map do the job to match people to the process? How to construct such optimization? Oh, this is a great question. So can we optimize matching people to process directions? Probably we can. There was a book, I believe, pretty long ago, written, and it was stated in which that for each person there is a task that he or she is doing the best, and the question that the problem in front of leader is try to find this task, trying to find this match. I still believe that that's true. I still believe that the person who are not so good or even disaster in some tasks are brilliant in others. However, the question about level of optimization. When I was studying, I believe in the school, there were a lot of tests like, what should you do next? Which type of specialty you should select? Should it be more technical? Should it be more human-oriented? Again, interesting question, technician versus humanity. Yeah, should you select technical-oriented or human-oriented? But that's probably another topic. Should it be something more sensual? I don't know, another types on this list. This is part of prof orientation. You try to select. There were a couple of directions. I try to monitor my classmates, my friends, trying to recap a little bit, okay, how we did it like 15, 17 years ago, how is it now? And it's different. Somewhere it matches, somewhere no. I believe in technology, so I believe that it can be some magical box that can run this task for us. However, I believe there are a lot of hidden questions, emotions, personality characteristics that you can't read just on some questionnaire. So it's either a series of experiments when you make your best guess, scientific best guess, try the person, put the person in the environment, and then try to calibrate. Is it good? Okay. Is it not so good? Which side we should move it? Yeah. Do we have appropriate task here? Or do we have? Can we adjust this position? in future, hopefully, we will be able to do it. In future, hopefully, we will be able to match the same. Honestly, while talking, I remember such device that actually did pretty similar job for spreading the people based on their actually personal, I believe, characteristic. And if you remember the first Harry Potter, maybe not the only first, but they have this hat who was talking to which faculty the person should go. For me right now, just 100% match from the first time, it looks like a little bit magic and a little bit hat. So you need still involve people-to-people interaction to buy this best place. However, in future, I believe that that every well-developed technology is similar to magic, according to Clark. So I believe that something similar. In future, we will be able to make our best guesses even more accurate. Maybe we'll be able to take it. Again, this is an interesting question because you have the stream of people and you have the stream of processes. And it might be the case when there is an ideal position for these people in this process matrix. However, you don't have this step because you outsource it, automate it, decided to reduce it, or this step is already staffed. There is another person doing this, and we can bring the algorithm, but not sure it will be so easy to implement it. However, it's interesting thing. So vector map or matrix definitely can bring us faster. Again, I believe guys you have experience in different areas, and you can recap when there is a great engineer making great job on one project or one technology area, just wanted to change something, move to another technology or move to another project direction in the same company, maybe even in the same product, and you see that no, that's not his direction, it's not his love, that's not his passion, maybe because of team, maybe because of technology, maybe because I don't know, some other circumstances. So still, person-to-person interactions are unnecessary and unavoidable here. I would suggest that was the last question.
Yeah.
I really like the way how you put them. So thank you for your time, definitely. It would be great to see you on our next meetings and inside Intellias. I believe if you have any questions, I will ask you to drop a few lines to Intellias, so you can try to find me in LinkedIn. I'll be glad trying to answer them and trying to dive deeper into discussion. And maybe I will suggest that if there are a few questions or few topics that you would like to dive deeper, not about software, but maybe about team management, project management, all the stuff, drop a few lines to Intellias or to me, and we'll try to schedule the next event around this topic, and maybe we'll try to get additional speakers to it.
Yeah, thank you for that. Actually, you can type that in a feedback form, which I will send you once more. That would be so great for us if you share your opinions, so we can plan the further events. And I think it's going to be useful as well for our speaker. So thank you once more for a great presentation. I will send tomorrow the recording for everyone who signed up for this event. We'll also add the LinkedIn you mentioned. So if someone wants to just talk to you, they can. And I wish you guys have a great evening and